board and then NLRC.
Mr. President, in the budgetary process, each department has an amount and the list of programs. Your Honor mentioned many agencies, and perhaps it is your right, it is our right to amend the budget, and you may submit it, but that is dependent on the subcommittee chair, Senator Villar, and the chairman of the Committee on Finance, and we could vote on it. Because, number one, amounts must be made, not just mentioned in generality, and perhaps what programs of a DNR do you want to defund? Perhaps you could ask that of the subcommittee chair. So, I understand where you're coming from. You may be frustrated with certain output of certain programs, and that's your prerogative. I've been through that also before. So perhaps you could mention the programs of the DNR that you think don't deserve the funding, and it is up to the chair of the subcommittee and the chair of the finance committee to agree to your recommendation.
I understand, Madam President. So I would submit those amounts in the amendments that I would like, that I wish to be transferred to the agencies that I did mention. However, for now, if the DNR wishes to, they can submit to me, copies of those documents that they said they're trying to research now, and they are going to show me, especially those last documents that I requested, the certification of precondition signed by the NCIP. Now, if they're saying na meron po silang ganon, then I need the person that will show me the CP na signed ng NCIP, put that person under oath na yan ay valid documents, at kapag napatunayan na hindi valid yan, siya po'y makukulong, makakasuhan, dahil I just spoke to the NCIP people, main office and regional offices, wala po silang ini-issue yung CP. Now, kung otherwise sinasabi ng DNR na meron, then let's see.
Yes, we recognize Senator Villar. Yes.
The DNR was saying that what the IP signed is to make the study. There is no permit yet to implement the project. So when you cannot ask for the NCIP commitment because that is given when there is a project. But ito parang permit lang to study the project. So ang pumirma lang yung IP representative.
Kaya nga po, para makapagpirma ang isang IP representative, dumaan po dapat doon sa tatlong process na minention ko po. Number one, dapat may tinatawag na indigenous political structure. Tribal leaders po ang mag-assign, mag-designate kung sino ang allowed na mag-represent doon sa tribal group nila. Number two, meron po yung tinatawag na free and prior informed consent to make sure po na ito po yung process ng NCIP to make sure na itong IPs were not influenced and were not coerced. And then finally, dapat po meron pong evidence of 1 and 2 that really happened, certification of precondition. Ito po isang documentation from NCIP to make sure, to ensure na nagkaroon po ng tamang proseso, and this should be signed na pumayag po yung IPs, and this document should be signed by the NCIP committee. Now, sabi niyo po, ang ginagawa ay testing pa lamang. Even though testing pa lamang, dapat po merong paalam sa mga IPs, kahit testing pa lamang po yan.
Mr. President, it is not the power of the DNR to appoint the IPs or to see to it that the right IPs are represented in the PAMBI. It's the PAMBI who will decide if they will accept the representation of the IPs. So, hindi po natin marirequire ang DNR doon kasi may right ang PAMBI to choose kung sino ang magiging member ng PAMBIs. It's according to the law.
Madam President and the good sponsor, yes, kasi once na ginamit niyo po yung IPs, meron pong batas ang IPs sa pamagitan ng tribal group nila. You cannot just go to the IPs and approach them and say, hey, I want you to be one of the...
No.
Kailangan po may proseso
So,
talaga.
ang sinasabi ng DNR, hindi sila magpo-provide ng information na yun, kundi yung PAMBI. Kasi sila yung nag-approve na yun ang member ng PAMBI.
Exactly.
So, the DNR cannot produce that document. It's the PAMBI.
Yes,
Of
Madam
the
President. The PAMBI,
Masungi.
yes, the PAMBI are the ones, base po doon sa batas na binanggit ko kanina.
Kaso ang member ng PAMBI, hindi naman lang DNR. Marami. May local
but since
government,
there's an
may
issue,
NGO.
Madam President, good sponsor. Since meron pong issue ng ancestral domain at ang IPs po dapat dito ay ginagalang, nirespeto, recognize. So kailangan po talaga kasama sila doon po sa pagbuo nitong PAMBI Board of Directors para doon sa isang project.
Opo.
Okay. Now, sabi ko rito, sabi sa batas ng IPs, dapat meron pong tinatawag na selection process at dumadaan po yan sa IPS. Tribal leaders ang pumipili kung sino sa kanilang kamiyembro ang pwede, binibigyan ng authority, ang pwedeng mag-witness o maging member ng PAMBI. Hindi po
PAMBI,
pwedeng basta-basta lang po natin
hindi.
ituturo kung sino dyan protection po ito ng mga IPs kasi kayo na po mismo Mr. President, Madam President and your good sponsor, kayo na po mismo nagsabi kanina, alam niyo naman yung IPs madaling ma-influensya eh. Kaya nga po we have
pero
this.
po ang
Kaya,
PAMBI
Madam
ang
President,
may power dyan,
Madam
hindi
President,
ang DNR.
Mr.
PAMBI
Kaya
is
nga
an
po we have, kaya nga po we have this.
Session is suspended. Maybe just request, well, of course, Your Honor, the sponsor, can we allow her please to continue? And you will give you all the time to ask a
No,
question.
Madam President,
Yes.
ako munang magsalita kasi I'm explaining eh. Inagaw niyo po yung time ko eh. I was the one explaining and my witness is the
We
minority leader.
suspend session for a minute.
Raffy Tulfo is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Madam Sponsor, good afternoon. I would like to put in record as Vice Chairman of the Committee on Labor, I am fully supporting 100% the budget for 2024 for the Department of Labor and Employment. Ibig sabihin, walang kaduda-duda, full out support po ako. Okay, ba,
Maraming
Madam Sponsor?
salamat po, Mr. President,
However-
sa chair ng committee ng Department of Migrant Workers. At alam ko po na sa puso niya ay talagang nagbibigay ng proteksyon sa ating mga manggagawa. At inaantabayanan ko po ang kanyang mga katanungan na sigurado akong makakatulong para pang mapaganda palalo ang budget ng DOLE.
Tama po kayo dyan, Mr. President, Madam Sponsor. I've said it so many times, but I'll say it again anyway. Ito po yung sinasabi ko. He was less in life, should have more in law. Ibig sabihin, yung mga maliliit at kapuspalat ng mga kababayan, sila dapat magkaroon ng mas malawak na proteksyon sa ating batas. At sino po itong mga kapuspalat ng kababayan? Sila po yung mga below minimum wage, hindi nakatanggap ng sapat na sweldo mula sa kanilang mga employer. At kapag sila po ay nagsampa ng reklamo, nababaliktad pa sila karamihan. And there are times na sila po ay nananalo, pero paper victory lamang ang nangyari at hindi na natatanggap yung kanilang panalo. So, having said that, ang question ko ngayon para sa mga taga-DOLE, ano pong polisiya you have put in place to ensure na wala na pong mga manggagawa na makakatanggap ng below sa minimum wage? Kasi batas po natin yan.
Yeah.
And yet, every day, even while we speak, doon po sa action center ko, sa TV5, meron pong mga nakapila doon dahil hindi po binibigay yung kanilang tamang pasweldo at binipisyo. Ibig sabihin, meron po tayong minimum wage, below minimum po ang binibigay sa kanila. Karamihan po sila mga factory workers, sila po yung mga security guards, sila po yung mga bodegero, sila po yung palagi na api. So, meron po ba tayong pulisya na para matigil na po ito at maging patas na po ang batas?
Alam po natin na kailangan tagala pinapatupad ang ating minimum wage. Ang ginagawa po ng DOLE ay by inspection. Alam naman po natin na hindi kaya naman inspeksyonin lahat sa buong bansa. So ako po ay magpapakatotoo na meron po silang graph dito ng mga na-inspect po nila mula Enero hanggang Oktubre ngayong taon na ito sa NCR sa lahat ng regions. Meron po silang target, meron silang accomplishment, at meron silang na-inspect at may technical and advisory visit. Yun po ang ginagawa nila, labor inspection and technical and advisory visit. Lahat po naman ay dapat sumusunod ng ating mga batas. Alam natin, ang minimum wage nga ay dapat taasan pa nga, pero hindi pa na napapatupad yun. In the meantime, all they can do and what they're doing is inspection and technical and advisory visits. At meron po silang mahaba po ito, we can give you a copy of the targets per region and their accomplishments per region.
Kahanga-hanga po yan, Mr. President, Madam Sponsor, yung sinasabi niyo may target sila. Pero ang tanong ko, dun sa target nila, meron na hubang nasampulan para naman madala at it will serve as warning to some people there na hindi talagang bibigyan ng minimum wage. Ito pong ibig sabihin to mga employer. Meron na hubang nakulong at pwede hubang makita yung numero ng mga nakulong o nakasuhan man lang.
Meron po silang mga nakita na hindi nagko-comply, so mag-i-issue po sila ng compliance order. Admittedly, walang nakukulong.
Dapat po may
Wala
makulong.
pa. Wala pa.
Wala pa. Dapat po may makulong.
Ayon po sa kanila, no?
Dapat may makulong. Dahil kapag walang nakulong na mga employer, dapat may makulong na taga-DOLE. Dahil hindi lang ginagawa ka ng trabaho.
Kala ko ba ay kayo tutulong sa budget? Bakit
Tutulong sa
kayo-
budget. Pero it doesn't mean na
Okay.
tutulong sa budget tapos maging tamad na sila.
Hindi naman po.
I'll
Okay.
give them the budget that they
To be fair
ask,
to
they
them.
require.
Yes.
I'll give it to them full support. Pero kapalit niyan, gawin nilang trabaho nila para
Sure.
sa mga maliit nating kababayan.
Opo. Sinabi ko po, ang kanilang ginagawa ay visits and compliance visits, nagbibigay ng abiso. Sabi nga nila, may mga hindi nagko-comply, so may compliance orders
That-
kayong ginagawa. But they were
Opo.
very honest to say, sa kaalaman nila, wala pang nakukulong.
Wala pa nakulong. Kaya nga po sana, pwede ho ba ako mag-request na sana po may makulong para may sampulan. So yung mga pong mga, sabi niya mo, Madam President, Madam Sponsor, na call attention na, pwede bang bigyan niyo ako ng kopya para ako na po magpa-follow up to make sure na talaga
Okay.
matutuluyan yung mga kumpanyang yun at makasuhan. Kasi hanggat wala po nakasuhan, ang tingin nila sa batas natin is bungal. Kumbaga, walang ngipin. So dapat lagi natin ngipin ang batas. At ako po ang pwede magsilbing ngipin. Okay lang po sa akin, magalit
Okay.
sila lahat. Basta I'll make sure na yung batas ay ma-implement. At that's the reason, to be honest with you, Mr. President, Madam Sponsor, that's the promise I made to the mga manggagawa during the election na pagdating ko po dito sa Senado, sila po ay magkakaroon ng boses, lalo na po yung mga palaging naapi ng mga manggagawa at hindi nabibigyan ng tamang mga sweldo at benepisyo. I'll be the voice for them.
Okay.
And I'm just doing what I promised them.
Bibigay ko po sa inyo ang matrix po nila ng minimum wage, rate of compliance to the minimum wage. January to September of 2023, ang kanilang inspected establishments
Opo.
at ang compliance rate ayon dito sa datos ay 93.50. Ang ating talagang, it is our desire that everyone will comply with this. Maliit na nga yung minimum wage, ay kailangan mag-comply lahat.
Kulang na nga po kung tutusin, tama. I
kulang
agree
na
with you.
kulang, yes.
Kaya
So-
in fact, I made a suggestion last year. Mukhang mabilis mag-oo yung mga taga-dole, pero hindi naman ginagawa. Suggestion ko lang to. In my humble opinion, it will be better kung magpaskil po sa lahat ng establishmento, especially sa mga factory, sa mga security agency, sinasabi doon na ito yung minimum wage para sa lugar na ito,
Meron.
at ito yung mga karapatan ng mga manggagawa, at kapag hindi nasunod ito, meron hotline na pwede yung tawagan. At syempre dapat yun, hotline na yun, may sumasagot doon. Wala pa rin pong gumagawa ng ganon.
Ginagawa po nila,
Meron na po
ayon
ba?
po sa DOLE, ay nagpapaskill po sila ng hard copy.
Kung hard copy, sana yung parang ano ba, karatula. Na,
Yun nga po, hard copy na poster sa mga establishments.
Yes.
Not only minimum wage, but also
Yung mga
overtime
karapatan nila.
pay, holiday pay, and other
At
benefits.
sa baba noon, may nakalagay na hotline na pwedeng tawagin.
Yes, meron po yun.
Kasi po, sa ano yung work area, ang nangyari po kasi, karamihan, sa halimbawa galing ng probinsya, pupunta dito sa Maynila, hindi nila alam magkano minimum wage. So kung ano sasabihin po sa kanila ng kanilang employer, tinatanggap nila, kapit sa patalim. Pero kung meron pong karatula doon, ay, ito pala yung minimum wage sa Maynila, ito pala yung mga karapatan ko, dapat pala overtime, bayaran, night differential, dapat bayaran, etc.
You
So,
do that,
hindi
right?
nasusunod.
Yeah.
Kailangan pala, may payslip. Hindi nasusunod yung, hindi nabibigyan mga karapatan ko yan. Then,
Yes.
nandun yung cellphone number na pwede nang tawagan.
Meron po silang ginagawang ganon,
Meron.
ayon po sa DOLE, ay
Alright.
ginawa po nila. Hindi
Okay.
lang nga yung minimum wage, kundi yung mga benepisyo.
So next budget hearing sa 2024, gusto ko po meron na pong nakasuhan na employee hindi po nagbigay ng minimum wage at
May kaso.
meron pong nakulong.
Meron, may kaso.
Hindi po ako nagbibiro, seryoso po ako ha. Gusto ko po by next year meron pong employer na hindi po nagbibigay sumusunod doon sa minimum wage law na ina-underpay yung po mga manggagawa niya. Bigyan niyo ako ng kahit isa man lang na kumpanya, matutuwa na ako. Pero pag wala, ako po ay manggagalaiti. I'm very sorry to say that right here, right now. Kailangan po merong isa masampulan o matuluyan. Kasi wala po talaga eh. And I'll tell you, Madam Sponsor, ikaw hindi niyo alam to Madam Sponsor, although si Madam Sponsor, she's my friend. Karamihan sa mga dole sabi inspection, pupunta ron. Sasabihin ko lang po sa inyo yung style. Punta ron yung mga taga-dole mag-inspect. Kasi nga po, may nagreklamo. In fact, there are times na natutuwa pa nga kapag may nagreklamo. Pupunta mag-inspection. Pagdating po doon sa area, magkakaroon po ng pag-uusap, yung pong dole inspector at yung pong mga opisyal ng kumpanya. And wala pong representante mula po sa mga manggagawa ng kumpanya. So sila lang po nag-uusap. So hindi alam kung anong pinag-uusapan. Paglabas ng dole inspector, may dala-dala na pong bag. Hindi alam kung anong laman ng bag. At tablado na. Yun na po ang aking observation. At yan po'y base po, meaning base po yan sa mga nasabi po sa akin. So ang aking po observation, mukhang hindi po seryoso yung dole para masolve po yung problema ng manggagawa. Again, going back to what I promised, susuportahan ko po ang inyong pong budget. In fact, mamaya NLRC, meron po akong bibigay na big support. Andito ba yung DBM? DBM? Present man DBM? Meron man DBM? Tumago ng DBM? Walang DBM? Kala ko. Okay. Anyway, mapapalood naman ito ng DBM. Okay. So okay na po ba yun, yung akin pong sinasabi sa inyo? Kasi for so many years, Mr. President and Madam Sponsor, for so many years, I've been a broadcaster for 20 years. Okay. Walang mintis po yan. Araw-araw, mahaba po ang pila sa aking action center na kung saan mga security guard, mga factory worker, ang reklamo nila, Idol, sir, below minimum po ang aking sweldo. Wala pong bayad sa overtime. 15 hours po yung trabaho ko, 18 hours pa po yung trabaho ko, wala pong overtime. Palagi pa po ako puyat at napapagalitan pa, etc. etc. Wala pong payslip. Wala po akong SSS, wala pong PhilHealth, wala pong pag-ibig. Ganun na lang po palagi ang reklamo. So, kaya nga sabi ko po, nandito na po ako sa Senado, gusto ko po dapat magkaroon po ng kabuluhan yung pagdating ko dito sa Senado. Kaya nga po ang request ko ngayon sa DOLE, gusto ko po by next year sa susunod na budget hearing, meron po talaga natuluyan na nakusuhan dahil sa pagnanakaw sa sweldo ng mga pobre nating mga manggagawa. Kasi ito po, bibigyan kita ng situation kayo dyan sa DOLE. Kapag ang empleyado nagnakaw sa kanyang amo, pinagtatrabahuan, maniwala kayo sa hindi, kakasuhan agad yung empleyado, makukulong sa kasong qualified theft. Tama? As simple as that. Pero, kapag ang amo nagnakaw sa kanyang empleyado sa pamamagitan ng hindi pagbigay ng tamang pasweldo, ninanakaw yung kanyang sweldo at benepisyo, binubulsa, ano nangyari? Hanggang DOLE lang. Pagdating sa DOLE, pag-uusapan lang, pag-aregluhin. Sometimes, wala lang. This is unfair. Ito nga sinasabi ko, he who has less in life should have more in law. Pero mukhang hindi ata nasusunod. Kaya hanggat dito ako sa Senado, kaya gusto ko ito maliit natin kababayan, especially itong mga maliit na magagawa, ay mabigyan ng mas malawakang proteksyon. And so with DOLE, can I get assurance from you guys by next year, meron na po natuluyan na kasuhan na employer na ng api sa kanyang mga trabahador, meaning hindi po nagbigay ng tamang pasweldo. Give me an assurance ngayon pa lamang. Kasi for the past 20 years, like I said, 25 years po ako naging broadcaster. Ganun po ang palaging reklamo, day in and day out. And in fairness naman po sa DOLE, tuwing tatawag ako sa DOLE, na-action na naman, pinag-aayos, binabalik yung mga sweldong hindi na ibigay, band-aid solution yon. Yung sa akin, gusto ko po pang matagalan at permanent solution. Can I get that commitment from DOLE?
Yes. Mr. President, I think all of us here, whether elected or appointed or working in a bureaucracy, share the same advocacy for workers' welfare, for giving them what is due them, for compliance with the minimum wage, which is already so minimum and not a living wage. Yes, so I speak for them, even if the secretary is not here anymore now for a very urgent personal reason. Yes, to the best of their ability, they will, but clearly we know that it would be the DOJ. They must file the case there, no? And how can I, a sponsor of the budget, and they watch over the courts to ensure, because I cannot promise you, Your Honor, that as I sit here next year, if I'm still the chair of the budget of DOLE, na may nakakulong ng isa. Because you will say that I may be lying if next year walang nakakulong.
Okay, pero
I cannot answer you, sir, in the affirmative to say, I promise you when the budget comes here, may nakakulong. I as budget chair cannot do that.
Yes, ma'am.
But we share your advocacy. You're not alone in that fight. We all share the advocacy for workers' welfare and giving them their due wages. That's why we have also been wanting to increase the minimum wage para taasan po ang minimum wage nila para maging living wage. Napag-usapan po yan ng mahaba sa hearing. At may mga naka-file na admin cases, kung may criminal cases at nasa mga korte, I'm not certain whether the DOLE personnel here can actually interfere. So I cannot assure you na may nakakulong. Kasi kung sabihin kong oo para lang mapasa yung budget, para na akong nambola sa inyo. I don't want to do that.
No, what I'm
Yes.
trying to say here, Madam Sponsor, Mr. President, is merong kasong na i-file na dapat. Kasi mukhang wala atang kaso na i-file. Merong nga monitoring,
There are
meron
cases.
kayong target, inspection and all. Pero marami, I'm sure sa mga ginawa niyong pagbibisita, pagmamonitor, marami kayong nakitaan dyan ng mga kumpanya na talagang nag-violate sa batas natin, sa labor law natin.
evidence, yeah.
So ang tanong ko talaga, meron na bang naiakyat man lang
Yes.
sa korte?
Mr.
Kung meron,
President.
ilan po, para kung meron mga na-pending, ako na po magpa-follow up, I'll help you out na para ensure ko na yung kasong yun hindi na natitengga lang dyan sa korte, yan po ay gugulong at meron masampulan at meron makulong. Kasi hanggat wala pong nakukulong na mga among balasu, salbad mga masamang amo, tuloy-tuloy pa rin po yung gagawin pang-abit.
Yes. Ako po isang ayon sa inyo, pero alam naman po natin na ang DOJ na piskal o yung prosecutor ang siya magtitimbang ng ebidensya whether if-file ito o hindi, di ba po? Nagiging makatotoo ang mga DOLE directors or USEC sa akin na hindi po sila. It will be the prosecutor, it's under the DOJ, who will decide whether the
Precisely.
case will be filed or not.
Exactly.
And so, yes, if there are abuses, since you are very influential in that sphere, and that is your advocacy, which we share with you, maybe the proactive way is to seek the help of the good senator so that through his influence and more than 26 million followers on his platforms, he can help you. Because if I tell you, I assure you, may kulong 1 year from now, then you take me up on that. Hindi po ako ang nagpapakulong o sila po. It is the DOJ, through the prosecutor and the fiscal, that is our judicial process that will weigh the evidence to see if there is enough evidence to file the case. And once it is in the court, again, I cannot expect the good secretary or his ASECs and USECs to be following it up in the respective courts. However, what we could do is inform your honor and your office with all cases filed, whether for compliant, the non-compliant employers, and then perhaps you could help. Both administrative and possible criminal liabilities.
That's exactly
That's
what
what I can suggest.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Now, thank you po, nag-guess na po ako. Yung bang merong po dapat mga kaso nang na-file sa korte dahil
There are cases filed? Okay.
dahil
Do you
dito
have
sa mga
them?
kumpanya na hindi po sumusunod sa batas.
As of now, to their knowledge, there is no criminal case filed in court. There are administrative cases based on their visits and their compliance visits, Mr. President.
Anyway, ako po ay gumagawa ng resolution. Ang tawag po doon ay anti-wage theft law para makasuhan ng kaso kriminal ang lahat ng mga employer na hindi po ay na nagnanakaw sa sweldo ng mga empleyado. At alam naman natin yan, Madam Sponsor, na it will take some time bago yan ay ma-hear hanggang sa may pasa, kung may papsa. Pero for the meantime, meron naman talaga tayong batas na dapat implement labor law na nagsasabing ibigay na rapat, which is the minimum wage.
Yes.
So gusto ko po, sana may ma-file na kaso by next year at gusto ko makita yung mga i-file na kaso para ako nang po magpa-follow up upang masiguro na talagang gugulong yung kaso na i-file. Yun lang po yung point ko.
Yes. The DOLE, insofar as their role will be the witnesses, Mr. President.
Okay.
Again, I reiterate that the proper process through the DOJ would be for the fiscal or the prosecutor to assess the evidence and to file the case. And the DOLE will be a witness. What we can do is to give you all the cases, administrative in nature, that are non-compliant. And then we see how it can be developed into a criminal case, right? But depending again on the prosecutor who will weigh the evidence and decide whether a case will be filed. And once filed, we will see in which court it will raffled off, right? And that's a long process.
I know.
If your honor and your office and regional offices nationwide and with your vast influence can help, we would be very happy.
Okay.
Ulitin ko po, kaisa po niyo ako sa inyong advokasya para bigyan ng hustisya at karampatang benepisyo ang ating manggagawa. As I said many times today, they're the engine of our socio-economic development. So we must protect them.
Okay.
Unfortunately, and I'll be very truthful, it's a long process. And I would like to see the non-compliant employers, yes, charged. And so that it would be a lesson learned, that's what you're saying, for all the others to comply with the law. Because napakaliit na nga ng minimum wage, hindi pa living wage, hindi pa binibigay ng buo. I support you and I will be co-author of with your permission, of your bill on wage theft. Because I recall, when you were not yet senator, when we were before the campaign, you told me one of the first bills you will file is that bill. Yes. It's been 1 year and a half. Yes.
Nasa committee na yun.
Oh, yes.
And,
We will support you there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nasa committee na po yun. Inintay ko lang po ma-hear yun. Hindi naman po akong chairman. Ako po ay vice chairman naman.
May I suggest again,
I already
Mr.
forwarded
President?
to the committee and I'm still
Yes.
waiting na yun po ay ma-hear.
Majority Leader, magandang i-prioritize. So, may I suggest also, Mr. President, that if it is a priority measure, I share your advocacy. And if the chair of the committee would be willing to create a subcommittee, pwede po niyong i-hearing yun. Para po, bago sa susunod na taon, nakaharap ko po kayo sa budget ng DOLE na isabatas na yan. Para sabi nyo, may ngipin ang batas. Kasi ang DOLE, hindi nila kayang saklawin ang trabaho ng DOJ na siya pong gagawa ng kaso at sila po ang nanunungkulan dun sa pag-usad ng mga na-file na kaso. Pero kung meron na kayong batas na wage theft, and I agree with you in concept, then that would be very helpful. So you can create a subcommittee, right? Under whose committee it is. It's only a suggestion. If your honor wants it to move more quickly.
Matanong ko lang po, Madam Chair, ano, sa mga taga-Dole. Halimbawa po, sa ginawa niyong inspection, ito po ay para sa mga taga-Dole, and then sa inyong paggawa ng inspection, base po sa reklamo ng mga manggagawa sa isang factory, paulit-ulit at matagal nang niloloko sila ng kanilang employer at hindi po binibigay yung kanilang tamang pasweldo, minimum, wala sila sa minimum wage, wala yung mga benepisyo. Kapag nalaman niyo po yan, na ganun po yung violation for the past, say, 10 years, ganun po yung gawain. Ano po usually ang ginagawa ng Dole? Ano pong course of action? May I know?
Continue to issue compliance order for that.
That's all you can do. Compliance order. Eh, kung hindi kayo pansin. So, all they can do when they visit, they're non-compliant, issue a compliance order with double indemnity, and then, what's next? Subject to writ of execution, then they collect if they don't pay.
Good question. If they
Then
don't pay,
if they don't pay, there's garnishment.
warning?
Garnishment. Have you ever garnished?
Yes.
Yeah, you've
Bank
done.
account, yes.
Okay.
Meron po
So,
bang nag-garnish?
Yes.
yes, they've garnished bank
Can I
accounts.
get a list of those companies na garnish?
They can give you a report,
Can
Your
I
Honor.
get a
Yes.
report? Yung mga nakita na
So,
may violation at garnish?
visitation, compliance order, then writ of execution, and hopefully they comply, double indemnity, but if not, writ of execution and garnishment, right? That's
Okay.
all you can do.
I'll tell you, Madam Sponsor, Mr. President, ito po, may record naman to, naka-upload naman to sa channel ko. Anong nangyari, may mga kumpanya, say, 10 years na hindi nagbibigay ng minimum wage sa kanilang mga trabahador. After 10 years,
Ano nakakulusot yung 10 years?
nakapag-isip, kaya nga, magandang tanong, paano nakalusot? After 10 years, magmamarcha po yung mga empleyado, gagawa akong computation. There are times, nakakasingil po ako, yung program ko ng 2 million, 3 million, ang pinakamalaki ata na singil 5 million, dahil parang 15 sila mga empleyado, nasingil ko, na hindi kayang singilin ng Dole, hindi sa pagmamayabang, dahil sa akin, nasingil ko na obliga yung kumpanya na bayaran, pero after 10 years. Pero kasing limit ngayon na up to 5 years lang ata ang pwede masingil. So kung lumapit sa akin yung mga empleyado, 10 years after, sorry na lang yung 5 years. Parang ganun ata hanggang 5 years lang ata pwede makolekta. Anyway, yan sinasabi kong proseso. So what I want you to do, Dole, for the meantime, hanggat hindi pa naipapasa yung bill ko na wage theft, make sure na dapat may napaparusahan. Doon sa sinasabi nyo ng compliance, binanggit si Madam Sponsor na garnishment, execution, kung ano pa man yun, dapat meron talaga. Meron napasara,
yes.
meron po na-embargohan ng mga assets dahil ipambayad doon sa kanilang mga
rin kayo.
empleyado.
You know that-
In fact, meron po ako mga kumpanya na papalusot, tuturuan ko kayo dyan mga taga-Dole. Inobliga ko yung employer na yung kanyang diamond wedding ring.
You can be
Inobliga ko, biniro ko lang, pero yung biro ko, sineryoso niya, yung kanyang diamond wedding ring, isinanla niya para may pang sweldo lang.
Mr. President, I am told that
Para maipas...
yes, hindi po nila tungkulin at hindi po sila pwede magsara at magpasara. It's beyond their jurisdiction.
Hindi, kasi ang pagkakaintindi ko na sabi writ of execution, ano pa ba yung sinasabi niyo? Okay, sorry kung na-misunderstood niyo ako. Ang sa akin, just do something na para maramdaman nitong mga employer yung ngipin ng batas.
Yes. Do everything within their
Yes,
jurisdiction.
exactly.
But they cannot go beyond what is prescribed for them to do. Yeah.
Maybe pwede sila
But they can
mag-usap-usap,
coordinate
magkaroon-
with the other agencies kung
Exactly,
hindi
nandiyan-
nasaklaw ng kanilang
Nandiyan
jurisdiction.
yung BPLO, Business Permit and Licensing Office, sa LGU, pwede sila makipag...
Sa LGU, it would be
pwede
the
sila
LGU.
makipag-usap doon.
Yes.
Di ba? Nandiyan yung DTI. So pwede naman, kung gusto, maraming paraan. Kung ayaw,
Yes,
maraming
Mr.
dahilan.
President.
Di ba?
We take note of that. There's
mga
no
magagawa.
disagreement. We take note of that. And they're listening intently. And we will ensure that they will be more proactive. They've been doing their best. But as I said, the cases, it should be DOJ. And the padlocking, it would have to be the LGU. But garnishment, etc., they've done that. They can even give you a list of some
Okay, sige, garnishment.
companies that have done that.
So gusto ko makita yung mga nag-garnish na mga kumpanya. Can
Yes.
you give me a report, a list?
Yes.
Para ma-advertise ko naman po. Nang
Yes.
ganon, makita ng iba, seryoso pala itong Dole, wag natin gawin.
Of course.
So it will serve as like a warning. Ano po?
their accomplishment. And let me
Kailangan po
just-
maipaskill natin yung mga violators.
Yes. Paki-take note lang po na they would not consider garnishment as a punishment because that's mere compliance. Hindi pa ho yun parusa. Kasi pag gina-garnish mo, ibig sabihin kasi non-compliant sila, so that's part pa lang ng compliance, hindi pa sila
I know, pero
pinaparusahan.
at least accomplishment po yun.
Yes.
At least ibig sabihin, kumikilos po yung dole.
Yes.
At makikita din doon yung mga nag-garnish ng kumpanya. Sasabihin ng mga kumpanya, ayaw ko malagay dyan sa listahan, ayaw ko ma-advertise. Kailangan bago dumating yan, magbabayad nila ako ng tama
Yes.
sa mga empleyado. That was my point. So at least kung ano yung nagawa ng dole, ibigay nyo sa akin para ipakita ko, ito, nasasampulan sila, hindi nagbabayad, nag-garnishan sila. Diba?
We take
obligasyon
note of that.
magbayad.
Yes, Mr. President.
Yeah, okay. So let's move on. Isa na lang po. December on or before December 24, dapat po ibibigay yung 13-month pay. At marapit na po ang Pasko. Every single year, starting January 10, pataas, sa action center ko po, 80% ng pila, hindi po binibigay ang 13-month pay. Ano pong polisiya ang ginagawa po ng dole para masiguro na yung 13-month pay po ay naibibigay talaga?
Non-compliance pa rin. Non-compliance pa rin yan eh. Pareho rin po eh.
For last
Opo.
year, ma'am, this is the...
Kasi ngayon po, magpapasko na. Alam niyo po,
Yeah.
yung 13-month
Agree,
pay,
agree.
doon po sa mga maliit na kababayan, inaasahan po nila kasi extra money yan. Pinaplano nila. Ano
Agree.
bibili ko sa 13-month pay? Bibilihan ko ng sapatos yung aking bunso. Bilihan ko ng damit yung aking panganay. Kumbaga, pinapartition na nila yan sa isip nila kung anong gagawin. And then, boom, hindi bibigay. Kawawa naman.
Tayo po isang ayon talaga. Malaking bagay ang 13-month pay. At sana pag kumikita naman, gawin pang 14-month pay. Pero yung nag-issue na po sila ng labor advisory para ipaalala po na bago pang Desyembre ay ibigay na yung 13-month pay.
Okay. Paalala po. Anong klaseng paalala, Dole?
Yung labor advisory.
that will be coupled with
Yes.
inspection.
Did you do it hard copy? Or
So doon po sa nagbabiolate at hindi nagbibigyan ng 13-month pay, halimbawa, pipila ko sa action center ko sa January, ano pong magandang gawin kayo sa mga yon, sa mga ulupong, sa mga bad na yon, mga tao?
Inspect the establishment and employer.
Ano magandang gawin? Oh, yung mga very bad. Kasi,
yung
kasi
sagot
po,
ko-
I assure you, by January 10 pataas, dadagsain na naman po ang action center ko ng mga pobre nating magagawa, nagreklamo sa pag hindi po nabigyan ka ng 13-month pay. So they end up na pupunta sa
Can you
store,
kindly
mangutang para
furnish-
sa kanilang
Yes.
Noche Buena, etc.
Mr. President, pakibigay rin po yung mga pupunta sa inyo na hindi napunta sa kaalaman ng dole para po makita rin nila at magawa nila ang kaya nilang gawin. Kung hindi po nabayaran. Kung
Kaya
hindi
po,
nila alam.
ang tanong ko nga po, paano
In
po?
short, share information
Yes.
with each other.
Ganun pong ginagawa ko, Madam President. Tumatawag ko sa Dole. In fairness sa Dole, sila po tinatawagan ko rin. Kaya ang tanong ko lang po, kasi this has been happening for so many years, parang regular, naging norm na eh. Kumbaga parang normal na lang na every year, merong mga kinakawawa. Yung sa akin sana, pahinto na natin na dapat every year, wala na pong kawawang mga magagawa na ibibigay na po yung 13-month pay. Kasi nasa batas po yan at karapat-dapat na matanggap nila yan. Sabi ko nga po, marami sa kanila, kasi extra money yan, malayo pa lamang, pinaplano nila kung paano gastusin yung 13-month pay, kasama na dyan pang Noche Buena, tapos hindi pala nabigay, kawawang-kawawa naman sila. Parang napapabayaan
Tayo
natin.
po ay nakikiisa sa inyo na dapat ang minimum wage ay sundin. Patas yan eh. Dapat ang 13-month pay ay sundin bago Desyembre. Ito po ay merong tayong compliance rates by region. Yung 2022 at saka 2023, bibigay ko na lang po through DOLE sa inyong tanggapan. It's a long matrix and the targets and the compliance per region. Pero more than these matrices, more than these numbers, it's really the proactive behavior of everyone concerned in DOLE to make sure that not just the minimum wage but the 13-month pay is followed closely, efficiently.
Siguro po, Madam President, Madam Sponsor, Mr. President, siguro yung DOLE, pagdating sa 13-month pay, pwede ho kayong MOA sa mga taga-LGU para, ito po aking lamang pong opinion, say kung workable po ito, na yung mga hindi nagbigay ng 13-month pay, hindi i-renew yung kanilang license sa BPLO hanggat hindi na ibibigay yung 13-month pay. How's that? Is that something doable? Legit ba yan?
Can you
Pwede
do
ba
a
yan?
MOA with LGU?
Magkaroon ng MOA na kapag hindi nyo binigay yung sa mga kumpanya na hindi nagbigay ng 13-month pay, kasi yearly po, ni-renew yung lisensya sa BPLO, sa LGU, hindi muna ibibigay, hindi muna ma-renew ang inyong license hanggat hindi nyo nakukomply yung 13-month pay. How's that?
So perhaps
Meron tayong dating mayor dito. Maybe he can give an opinion. Si Senator Win Gatchalian, who's a former mayor.
Madam Chair, if I may intervene, I think it's possible. The local government units have broad powers looking after the general welfare of their constituents. So any violation of any law can be grounds to revoke business permit being given by LGUs. Of course, the DOLE needs to link up with the different LGUs. For example, in Valenzuela, I know that we work very closely with DOLE because we have a lot of factories there, we have a lot of businesses, and we work very closely with DOLE, both in terms of industrial peace para wala pong mga strike at wala pong mga problema. And then if there are any violations against our workers, the local government takes a proactive role to warn the businesses through the use of that business license and business permit and licensing powers, Mr. President. So it's a good idea, and I appreciate the comments of the good Senator to bring this out to the fore. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Win Gatchalian.
Yes, thank you, Senator Gatchalian. Mr. President, we were discussing a possible convergence MOA between the DILG and the DOLE, so that at least if we have the DILG on board, they can proactively advise and help monitor the business establishments in their LGUs.
Thank you, Madam Sponsor. Ngayon, tulong naman. Pure tulong to, Madam Sponsor, Mr. President. Now, NLRC, the past many years, palagi ko pong nababatiko sa NLRC dahil pupunta sa akin yung mga complainant, nanalo na sila sa kaso, pero pagdating sa oras na sila po ay dapat mabayaran na, parang paper victory lang sapagkat yung mga employer nagtatago na o nailipat na po yung kanilang mga assets sa iba't ibang mga pangalan. Nasisisi ko palagi yung mga sheriff. And then kasi sabihin ng sheriff, wala akong panggasolina. Kuminsan yung mga sheriff nakikiangkas pa doon po sa complainant kasi walang sasakyan, walang pamasahe. So, I talked to some people sa NLRC, na-realize ko na po kung bakit ganon. So, naintindihan ko na po sila. Nakita ko po kung saan yung problema. So, kulang po sila sa budget. Wala bang DBM tayo rito? Madam Sponsor? Wala? Taguan DBM?
We can, even if the LBRMO is here, and we would be happy to receive an amendment from the good Senator.
Good. Kasi, Madam President, nalaman ko lang na ang allowance ng isang sheriff kada buwan para i-execute yung order sa kanya na ma-implement yung pagkapanalo ng nagreklamo, doon sa 5,000 na yun, kasama na yung pamasahe niya, kasama na yung panggasolina niya o transportation, kuminsan umabot ng 20 po in a month yung mga pupuntahan niyang mga employer. So just imagine kung 5,000 yan at 20 ang na-assign sa kanya ng mga kaso na pupuntahan niya, na imbestigahan niya kung nasaan back account nito, kung may mga asset pa ba ito and all. So kulang na kulang po yung 5,000 per sheriff na allowance a month. So kung akong tatanungin, baka po natin doblehin yun para mas maging effective po yung ating mga sheriff. Nang sa hindi na po sila palagi magpalusot na walang gasolina na mag-aangkas pa sa motor ng mga complainant.
Yes, it's not just the NLRC, but all the other agencies that have sheriffs. If Your Honor can amend it, because it comes from the MOE, and yes, we can add, it's within our power, that's why we're discussing the budget.
Thank you.
You can increase the MOE, at least if Your Honor wants to help the sheriffs, it can be additional MOE in the NLRC budget under the DOLE. So we will await that amendment and submit it to the LBRMO so that can be adjusted.
Right. Okay. At dagdag po dyan, Madam Sponsor, nakita ko rin po yung problema na kulang po sila sa sheriff. Kulang po. So kailangan siguro magdagdag tayo ng sheriff
That's
para
DBM.
mas maging
We have
epektibo
DBM
yung
here, right?
pag-implement ng writ of execution doon sa mga kumpanya na natalo. So kung kulang po yung sheriff, kaya pala yan ang isang dahilan kung bakit babalik po sa akin yung complainant. Sir, isang taon na po kami nanalo, hanggang ngayon hindi ko pa po na-collecta yung aking kong pinanalo. Malaman-laman ko, bukod doon sa kulang yung budget ng sheriff para bumiyahe, kulang din sila. So baka po natin dagdagan.
If the
Yung numbers of sheriff.
if the sheriff, that's plantilla, right? Yes, we would have to make a request with the DBM. We cannot. I don't think there's time in November, so that in January that could be made effective. But the DOLE would have to make a request for the 2025 NEP, right? So
Nakapending na po ata yan sa
is there a request?
sa Department of Budget, DBM.
There's a request pending in the DBM. We have a DBM representative in the gallery now. I'm not certain if the DBM
Okay ba
would
sa
have
DOLE
the answer.
na dagdagan yung sheriff? Mukha kaya ata ng DOLE.
No, of course they want that.
Okay.
There's a pending request.
Kasi nakita ko ganun eh.
No, there's a pending request of NLRC for an increase in provisions, line items for sheriffs. Yes, there's a pending request, Mr. President.
Okay. So there's a pending request. Yan po yung gusto ko mangyari sana na madagdagan po silang tauhan at madagdagan din po yung sweldo ng mga sheriff nang sa gayon hindi po na magiging paper victory lamang yung panalo po ng mga mga kababayan, pobreng mga magagawa na nag-file ng case sa
Yes.
NLRC at after manalo, after so many
Yes.
years, wala palang pupunta.
Just so that it's clear, the allowances of the existing sheriffs, Mr. President, can be adjusted with the amendment of the good senator under MOE, and that we will readily accept and we welcome that. The additional hiring of sheriffs is a pending request of the NLRC DOLE with the DBM. It has not yet been acted on favorably because that would fall under PS or Personnel Services and would have to be approved by DBM. There is no time until the time that the President signs the budget, hopefully in December, for the DBM to approve this, unless it's highly improbable, imposible na. Then that could be worked on in the coming year so that in the next year's NEP, the additional PS for sheriffs could be included.
Okay, and the last
Thank
but not the least, doon po sa mailing system nila, napag-alaman ko rin po na kapos po sila. Hindi po enough yung naipapadala na bibigyan na budget para mapabilis po
MOE.
yung pagpapadala ng mga communications doon po sa mga concerned
Buti napupunan
companies.
nyo. Sige, salamat po at napupunan nyo at kami po ay natutuwa na kayo po ay mag-amend para po sa MOE karagdagan for the sheriffs and for the mailing system. Thank you.
Okay.
We will accept. Thank you, Mr.
And
President.
NLRC, nakita nyo, sinuportahan ko kayo, pero magtrabaho kayo. Dahil kapag hindi, babalikan ko kayo. Maraming salamat, Madam.
I assure you, Mr. President,
at,
nagtatrabaho.
Madam Sponsor, thank you very much.
Salamat. Thank you very much for the very good interventions of the